The hidden history of how civilizations sleep. 1.8. Society as an organism. How money itself was transformed. There is one more consequence of the cognitive shift produced by double-entry bookkeeping that deserves separate treatment, because it explains something that has otherwise puzzled historians for a long time. How did small European states, with populations a fraction of the great agrarian empires of Asia, repeatedly defeat those empires in war? The standard answer again is ships and guns. The standard answer, again, this is what was underneath. Consider how money worked in a pre-modern agrarian state. The state issued currency, but the currency was, in the eyes of the population, a claim on real metal. A paper note, or a token coin, or any other instrument, was trusted only to the extent that the holder believed they could exchange it on demand for silver or gold. The state held a stock of precious metal in its treasuries, and the currency in circulation was, more or less, an extension of that stock. This arrangement had an inherent vulnerability. When merchants and ordinary subjects acquired paper currency, their first instinct, especially in uncertain times, was to convert it to physical metal. Once they held the metal, they would often bury it. Hoarded metal does not circulate. Hoarded metal is not available to the state for any further use. Over time, the state's treasury could be drained, not by any single act of theft, but by the cumulative withdrawal of the population's confidence. This is not a hypothetical pattern. It is the recurring story of agrarian state finance in late imperial China, in late Ottoman Turkey, in Tokugawa Japan, in many other places. State could spend, but only down to the bottom of its treasury. When the treasury was empty, the state was empty. War, which consumed metal at extraordinary rates, was the most reliable way to bring such a state to rule. An agrarian state that fought a serious war typically went bankrupt, regardless of whether it won or lost on the battlefield. Now consider how money came to work in a society where double-entry bookkeeping had reshaped the cognitive substrate. In such a society, an asset was no longer something to be hoarded. It was something to be recorded, traced, and used as collateral. A merchant who owned land or goods or a stake in a venture did not bury the value. He used the value to obtain credit, with the obligation recorded on both sides of the relevant ledgers. The credit could then be used to fund further activity. The further activity, if successful, generated more assets, which could in turn be pledged for more credit. This, in compressed form, is the mechanism by which money in the modern economy is created and destroyed. Money is issued against collateral, used in the economy, and eventually retired when the underlying obligation is settled. The money supply is not fixed by the state's metal stock. It expands and contracts with the productive activity of the society itself. What this meant, in practice, was that a state with a population trained in this kind of accounting could mobilize the financial energy of its entire society. State did not need to keep silver in a treasury sufficient to fund the war. It could borrow from its own merchants and citizens against future tax revenue, against the productive potential of the economy. It could issue bonds. It could expand credit during emergencies and contract it during calm periods. The military consequence of this difference was extraordinary, and it largely explains the apparent miracle of European expansion. When an agrarian empire went to war, the war drained the treasury. The longer the war, the worse the financial situation became. Even a victorious war could leave the empire so weakened that it would collapse in the following decades. War was, structurally, a path to ruin. When a society organized on the new financial principles went to war, something nearly opposite happened. The war required spending, which the state funded by issuing. The debt was bought by the society's own merchants and capital holders. Spending entered the economy in the form of orders for ships, weapons, food, uniforms, and the rest. These orders went to factories, shipyards, farms, and tradesmen. The economic activity expanded. The orders generated profits. The profits generated tax revenue. The tax revenue serviced the debt. War for such a society was not a path to ruin, but a stimulus to the economy. This is the deep reason that small European powers could repeatedly defeat much larger Asian empires through the 18th and 19th centuries. Britain in 1840 had perhaps 15 million people, a tiny fraction of Qing China's 300 million. The Opium War, which Britain won decisively, was not won because British soldiers were braver or smarter than Chinese soldiers. It was won because British society could mobilize its full financial energy for the war, while Qing society could not. The Bank of England issued bonds. British factories filled war orders. The British economy expanded during the conflict. The Qing treasury, meanwhile, drained as silver flowed out of the country. Long before the war was militarily decided, it had been financially decided. The cognitive substrate that made this possible. The population trained, generation after generation, to think in double entry terms, to extend credit on the basis of recorded obligations, to view assets as productive rather than as objects to be hoarded, was the underlying technology of European victory. The ships and guns were the visible part. The invisible part was a society that, because of its accounting habits, had become functionally a single organism, capable of coordinated effort at a scale that fragmented, hoarding societies could not match. This is the deepest meaning of what Pacioli published. He did not just publish a technique for keeping books. He published, indirectly and over centuries, the cognitive operating system of a new kind of society, a society that could function as an organism. A society in which the labor and capital of millions of strangers could be organized toward common projects through structures of mathematical trust. A society whose financial energy could be summoned, deployed, and recycled in ways that older societies could not imagine. European society's dominance over the world from the 17th century onward was not a moral phenomenon. It was an organizational one. Europeans, almost by historical accident, became the first civilization in which double-entry bookkeeping reshaped the cognitive infrastructure of an entire population. 在 reshaping turned a continent of fragmented small states into something functionally larger than any of them. A mathematically integrated social network, each part of which could mobilize its full economic potential in ways that older empires could not match. For our own moment, the lesson is not that the West will always be superior. It is that cognitive infrastructure, once built, produces effects that older arrangements struggle to compete with. Civilizations that later adopted similar accounting practices, but without the centuries of cognitive embedding, found that the technique itself was not enough. The substrate had to be built into ordinary minds, ordinary expectations, ordinary daily praxis. This insight bears directly on what we will discuss in the chapters that follow. Our own moment calls for a similar kind of cognitive embedding, not of double-entry bookkeeping, but of something further, the recognition of consumers as the owners of the systems they participate in. That recognition will, like the earlier one, change not only what people do, but how they think. It will also, like the earlier one, give a profound advantage to the first society that absorbs it into its daily cognition.